let's talk about the fungus that came to Blackeswell by Yves Geens or Geens. This is a Dolmenwood official adventure scenario from the Kickstarter, which I should have a physical copy of by now, other than all of the plastic tat involved getting stuck in the tariff black hole. I think I should have it coming this week, hopefully, though, because literally it has been posted. I think it was posted yesterday. But I'd already read this and prepared to review it. This is a remake, there are a couple by this author that he did or co-wrote or wrote, which have been rewritten for the Kickstarter. The other is the Abbey St. Cloud that I know of. And Dolmenwood, I should say I've run a long Dolmenwood campaign. I haven't run this adventure. I never had Psychedelic Fantasies 3, which is what it came in originally, which then in the key was pointed to. My players never went there, and by the time I was thinking I should complete my stuff, Psychedelic Fantasies 3 had stopped existing because it was going to be rewritten for this. I have been there the whole time, the whole journey really, nearly, not the very first Wormskins, but very early on in the Wormskin cycle. Then in the, we'll call the Google Drive era of very early proto book drafts, then the Patreon, and then the Kickstarter. I have an original text of Winter's Daughter, as well as all of the Wormskins. As I say, I ran a long campaign in Dolmenwood. So yeah, I can't compare this directly to Psychedelic Fantasies 3, though I own that, because I haven't read it properly. I did just briefly compare the maps and the key length roughly, just to kind of get some sense of what expansion or non-expansion there had been, for my own curiosity. But this is not a comparison, and these things don't need comparing. I think there is an artistic value in comparing and saying what artistic development or regression potentially is there. But as to game product, you can just look at a game product and read this is the second edition and whatever. It is in, I should also say, this is technically for the Dolmenwood rules, which is like an OSE hack, isn't it, technically? Having been waiting for the hard copy, I have not actually read these rules, and I'm not going to use them. You could just use this with OSE, basic, or indeed adaptive for AD&D. That was a legal panic and an unnecessary legal panic over OGL stuff. It's pretty clear most of the time what should be comparing and contrasting and converting to. So we have credits, including playtest referees, 6 groups credited. It doesn't mention, I don't think it mentions the original edition or version of it. It might do somewhere, I might be missing something. But yes, it has VTT maps that come separately with it, and it does in this version, the PDF version, I don't know how it will scan out, have, because it looks like it's bookfold, maps. So there you've got the map of the village, and there you've got maps of locations. The maps, as far as I could see, notably the dungeon location underground, are pretty similar to the original. So it gives you a sense of what kind of adventure this is. This is what I've sometimes called the wilderness dungeon, or something like I1 or UK1 are not bad examples of this idea of an environment where you're above ground, you're not strictly in a dungeon, though there may be some restrictions on kind of lateral space, and there's lots of little locations which resemble dungeon rooms, but maybe slightly more expansive or open to access. So yeah, it's that kind of adventure, and comes with whatever expectations you have about that. Character levels 2 to 4, only listed here, I think. It makes the point, of course, that you don't get XP for fungi and magic items unless using optional XP, which is in the Dolmenwood campaign book. This is obviously an OSE or /BX handover or carryover. There's 33,000 gold. So if you're level 2 or 3, and you make, if you're level 2, if the party is level 2 and there's 6 of you, say, you should comfortably level up if you survive. If you're level 3, you need a good haul to level up to 4. If you're level 4, you'll struggle to level up on this adventure, even on a good haul, in a 6 PC group. But it depends. various things. You know, the opening premise for the adventure. There are things definitely there are ways of putting stuff and framing in here which I think it's not even stuff that was there really in the Patreon phase. Some of it was, but in the Patreon phase of Dolmenwood. So there's some framing material which is plainly meant to make this as approachable as possible, theoretically, for the new referee. I don't know how approachable does make it, but here we have important note. The premise is this: successful completion of the adventure could enable its resettlement, but its place substantially altered. If the adventure is placed in an ongoing campaign, the referee should be prepared for the consequences of this. So yeah, you know, the reason I say I wonder how useful this could be is that to some degree, if you don't know what you're doing, being told how to do it doesn't always help. And if you know what you're doing, you don't need it. There is a kind of a strange Gnostic entry into refereeing that it only comes, like with many things, only comes through experience. But yeah, hopefully that is helpful to people. There is a hex location on the hex map for Dolmenwood. And then you have, this is, I actually briefly compared the Winter's Daughter second version to the third version, the Kickstarter version. And that was mostly a formatting thing. There was like a new, fairly powerful but also trivial rules-wise magic item. There wasn't much because I wasn't really making a comparison. But to see what physical changes apart from the way they put maps in work, and there is a slight layout change, but this is pretty much the layout that you've seen for a long time through Necrotic Gnome. So which, you know, you have these big headings and it gives you some subheading in bold and etc, etc, and you can look under each of these, but you still have to kind of read it in order. You can't just be like, oh well, I only want to know about the Myconom invoked, because you need to read everything. I don't actually particularly like this as a layout thing, but some people do. I think it is not substantially different to just writing paragraphs most of the time. And in fact, I think it's by expanding space, you can create a false sense of white space and stuff that I think can be confusing. Anyway, no one cares about that really, do they? But anyway, you have a summary of the village. You've got stuff about the Myconom. So in one way, this is trying to say, learn about the village, learn about not the antagonist, but the complexity. The Myconom is a wood god who Paronax and Johannes Klepp have essentially awoken or given greater access to an interest in Blackeswell. And then there's a bunch of stuff, experimentation, and then there's the complication, which is that the church is coming to destroy it. The Pleuratine Church, which used to be once upon a time the Church of the One True God. You're talking about in this quasi-medieval setting, late medieval, early Renaissance. You're talking about a quasi-Christian church. And there are some crusaders who are like, look, we should go and destroy the fact that something has obviously gone really badly wrong, so we should destroy it. And you do theoretically have a timer here. With the fairly useless advice, the referee can adjust this time limit as desired. Art, lots of fungly art, quite fun. Hooks, Arcane Rescue and Retrieval, Errand of Mercy. This is a different... this is an NPC. I'm an Abbot Hargle. I've used it. Abbot Hargle comes and says, why don't you go and try to help them before they all get burnt down. Plunder. Village of Blackeswell, you have random event. This is your wandering monster thing. Some of these obviously are potentially fighty, like particularly the Mycelipods are very obvious. And some are events that actually functionally removes an encounter. That is potentially a combat, but you just don't need to bother them. There's potentially friendly. Father Bertel is a kind of pseudo-friendly one. You can see, by the way, there are hyperlinks within the PDF. Mosslings, they're just hanging out. Yeah, potential combat there. So the point is that you know, it's not a super aggressive wandering monster table. I don't know how it compares, so I don't know if that is an upgrade or a downgrade or the same, depending on what you think would be an upgrade or a downgrade. But it's immediately saying, look, this is going to be a exploratory and fairly friendly adventure. You've only got a 1 in 6 chance. It is every turn, but 1 in 6 chance. And of those, 1.5 of them are very combat-y. There's then like I I think there's one. No, I don't think in there. No, there's not. There are some various fungal effects, but nothing that causes a major problem. There's a couple of friendly encounters. Oh no, there's one. There's 6. Yeah, there's two likely to be combat. One save or take -1 to attack rolls for 2 turns. You could just not do anything. Can roll a 1 in 6 chance of not having a combat the next turn. It's very gentle. This is exploratory. It's reflective, fairly friendly. There's a carpet of the mycelial veil. There's description of the church. Oh, sorry, of the buildings and stuff. Pretty ordinary, basic stuff. I would say I tend to find this text spreads out. I think it does take a lot of space. It's interesting. My only comparison there to the first version is that's much denser, which also some people don't like. There's some sympathy to your layout, guys. That you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So common encounters, people you might meet. So Lycanthropic Dead. It's a fun name. It obviously doesn't actually quite mean as much as you'd hope it means. But is that there's fungus moving their bones around. Mycelipods are fungal tendrils, often attached to people, but if you can grab onto you and they turn. The most dangerous environment effect, pretty much universally, because environmentally this is pretty gentle, is party members being turned against each other. Thematically, the idea that you might get thinged, basically. You might turn against your companions is the most regular. So you see that with mycelipod. Otherwise, you have stuff like you're basically stunned for 1d3 rounds is what Lycanthropic Dead do as their effect, and Bertil can make people have a functionally permanent -1 to attack rolls until a condition is fulfilled. This is all pretty gentle stuff. Again, he doesn't have, Ingram Bertil does not have any, he's friendly as well. He doesn't have any spells. The infested villagers, you should preferably cure, just attack with their fists. The Lycanthropic Dead are level 2 HD2, mycelipods HD1, and you can see they do have. This was the same in throughout a lot of OSE stuff, or is 2d8 because they're level 2 HD, average of 9. The same over here for the mycelipod. This is then the location guide. I think sometimes I think there's the fact the Wainwright is this location and it has 3 sub locations and it's got all that. This is what I mean by this is overly expansive for me. You're using up space here. It's meant to be clear, but I don't need it. But maybe some people do. Yep. So it's a village. You go in and look at stuff. Oh look, there's some infested villagers who attack you, and a Lycanthropic Oathfish that will attack you. These guys are reaction rolls, so they might not attack you. Most of the houses are covered in mould and fungus, and you can get some. So here you can get some 20 spherical mushrooms. If eaten, they force you to a sleep, but they're sleep mushrooms. But they are valuable. Of course, we've been told they count as magic items, since you don't get treasure for them. You don't get XP for them, sorry. And yeah. You have a variety of other places. You get the general idea. I think that that's probably enough. I'll show you one more village place, I think. But you can see, you go in this one and there's a rope made of giant fungus fibre. This, you could get some lover's gas mushroom. There's a locked drawer containing 260 silver, 26 gold. In this one, you could find 3 doses of blood cap. Look, amongst the goods in this area, there's some extra weaponry, I guess, which might be useful. 3 doses of blood, or 5 doses of blood canker. And then the Wainwright, lots of firewood, relevant. For anything, it could be that you're like, they want to burn stuff down, so that's a good source of wood. But also, if you're using things like camping rules. A patch of Angel's Lament, which I seem to remember being pretty good. And here, there's an infested villager who attacks, and a strongbox with 40 gold worth of silver in it. I should say, though that treasure doesn't sound amazing in terms of XP, it is okay actually throughout the module. The treasure, I mean, you get the budget at the start, and though it's tighter at the top end, I think it's a pretty reasonable for treasure without being incredibly generous. Looking at these, you can see it's not uncommon for a lot of the encounters, but not all, to be pretty quick to combat. That's not universal, and the monsters aren't super dangerous. I mean, one level 1 infested villager with 4 HP, who, because they specifically have like ghoul breath, essentially, -1 to attack rolls, might be harder to kill. But there's 6 of you, right? So you got to do your surprise checks and stuff to see what costs there are to PC preparation, or what benefits there are. But most of that's pretty simple, but it is continuous in terms of you're going to see a lot of those guys knocking around and popping up and attacking you. And yeah, there's usually interactable stuff, and there's fungi. So that they, by interactable, what I mean is you can search for stuff and you get something potentially interesting, like an extra short sword or an extra, or these bundles of firewood. So yeah, I will look at, we'll look at one more, literally the next one, just because it gives us the other flavour of encounter you can have mostly in the village. There's a family you can try to rescue who haven't been infected by the fungus. The priest is friendly and wants your help, but is infected by the fungus. But this one, Aster's fine costumery, the council leader, the mayor basically, is not infected and has kept everything very clean, and has like a magical needle which fixes stuff, and he has accidentally fixed his friend in a way that has turned him into it, which has fixed him in a way that is not completely positive. He's a bit Frankenstein's monstered. Actually Aster was the scientist. Again, I'd say Buttons is 2d8, 12 HP, ordinary saves, and 1d4. Are they +1 claws? Are 1d4 +1, or is it just +1 to attack? I need to double check the exact way Dolmenwood rules are presenting it. I don't think that's super dangerous. It's a weird thing. It's a lot of the traps and a lot of the monsters don't feel super dangerous. In this case, the cost of annoying Sylvan Aster, who you probably shouldn't because he's a potentially useful person to know, but it's in the context of the adventure, he doesn't really want to interact with the fungus. He's not dealing with it, he's just cleaning it off. Him and Mr. Buttons are, holding out on their own. There's decent treasure here. That's maybe the biggest thing is you kind of want to rob him to get his stuff. Like, you look at the back room, 100 GP of fabrics. You look in the living quarters, there's 150 GP of normal treasure, plus a letter worth 100 GP from Lady O'Grain. I guess this is because people are like, Lady O'Grain has written something. Lady O'Grain's an interesting, good character. But yeah, so there's some decent treasure there. And I guess fighting one 1d8 guy with fists and one 2d8 guy with 1d4 damage claws, 2 of them, albeit, as in that's the danger. And the treasure, the needle of mending as well. Like, it's weird. It feels like, I guess you could say the lawful group is going to want to work with this guy and so doesn't get the treasure. But that just seems like a straight penalty, which isn't ideal. Whereas, yeah, if you rob it, you get good treasure, but you remove one of the few people who isn't trying to attack you. But yeah, it's interesting, it's interactable, and it feels like that's expandable by the DM. Again, you look at all of these, the ones you've seen, and there's a real vibe. There is a sense of, there's some, you get your descriptions: brightly painted blue walls, meticulously scrubbed, 4 smiling mannequins, brass name plaque, and brick facade, vibrant pink mould, braided greenish white rope, and the roper. Stone exterior, brick chimney, sickly pale mushrooms, acrid reek. Like, you can, albeit I often think, I'm afraid this kind of thing, I think you might as well put into box text of a traditional format, even if you don't like read aloud, just because people are going to do it anyway. But this is good vibes. This is well written. This is like, yes, these places give you a clue of what's going on. And this is a weird building because there's no fungus and everything else. There's fungus. There's fungus on the floor. There's fungus all over the buildings. We found some fungus that was valuable. We had some that made us go to sleep. But then we thought maybe we'll get the rest of it. And that will be useful as, you know, we can presumably grind it into people's meals and poison them and make them go to sleep, you know, etc. You get the idea. I think atmospherically it's good. I think there is some thought to the encounters. There's good, you know, good quality everyday treasure all over the place, plus some special items. That's the general picture I'd want to give you of the village part of the adventure. Let's say that. Let's skip forward. Oh, that's a watchtower and the abandoned manse with the regenerative orifice, which in this version either heals you or does damage per round. This is literally the only thing I did compared to the old one, where it kills you if you're rejected. Like, it just consumes you. And it's basically, the more damaged you are, the less likely it is to regenerate you, the more likely it is to take you in as you know, essentially spare biological material to regenerate someone else. It is a cool encounter. There are a few of these. The same with, you can pick up loads of fungus. There's a few of these B1E weird and wonderful test and see kind of items, and there's a lot of creativity to that. You can see, as I say, with, you know, that there is a tendency in the adventure, not necessarily new to the Dolmenwood version, to be clear, the official Dolmenwood version. It had been referenced in Wormskin, presumably because Yves Geens was involved in Wormskin. But it had been referenced as, in this hex, this is the adventure you should use, and then it's been adapted. That I don't know if I said that at the top of the video, but you know, it's not necessarily absent in the original, but you can see there is a tendency, potentially strengthened here, to be pretty gentle whilst giving a variety of weird and wonderful experiences. That feels on brand for a lot of how Kickstarter Dolmenwood works and is presented. Let's skip forward again. Gem cutter, yeah. You can see here you've got the gem cutter's house. I thought was an interesting one. There's no fungal growth again, to be clear, with this one. This one does have probably about the given I'm saying it's gentle. I'm going to complain that this probably has about the harshest one. There are four. What's it called? 4 gargoyles. Gardui, Garael, Garganaf, Gargaunt. These are gargoyle versions of 4 saints, i.e. Gondui, Jarael, Goodenough and Gallant, which there's an interesting thing there about how far is that. Are you a DM going to say, the priest thinks these remind him of saint names, which is just to give the solution? How far is it that you give that on a prompt? They say, wait, I think Gar stands for gargoyle, which would be a reasonable deduction, to be fair, not impossible. And how far is it something where you're really hoping your players are just invested enough in the Saints of Dolmenwood, which are a genuine plot point? My players spent plenty of time going around restoring shrines. I don't know. And if not, you get 5-foot blast, save versus blast, save versus breath. It's active for 1 turn with burning for 1d6 damage, presumably per round that you're in it. Save versus blast for half. I don't know. It's not completely clear. But even that's not super harsh, albeit for a second level party going there, you could even knock down a unlucky fighter, a fighter who's rolled badly, 3 and 3 or something. Certainly, and you could take out a thief, certainly, who's averaging 6 to 7. So albeit it's still, a lot of this is chip damage, even that, which is one of the nasty traps, because it's actually quite hard to work, to know how players are going to deal with disarming it, is not particularly harsh. There's a mirror. You shouldn't shatter the mirror because it gives you bad luck. There's a combination to a safe. The safe has 3 fist-size uncut rubies, 400. That's decent, and I don't mind that kind of puzzle where you have numbers, and then that's behind the mirror pane, so that's the relevance of the mirror. Then there is a combination lock on a safe, like a combination dial on a safe. So lots of players will connect to that, and if they don't, they just don't get the treasure. There's no kind of central core. There's no horrendous penalty, but it is good treasure because that's 1200 GP. The lending house also, that's one reason, of course. We know presumably at the tailors it's because they've got Mr. Astor is cleaning everything all the time. And the gem cutter is presumably because of the fire from the gargoyle statues, I guess. Yes. Paronax's residence, lots of spell books, a couple of wands, good treasure here, albeit with one of the more dangerous monsters. So, so if we're saying that's one of the harsher traps because it's hard to avoid, at least it's not super damaging. These guys are worse. They're in the sense that they don't have any movement though. So this is a piercer kind of thing. Piercers have movement 1, don't they, or something? But yeah, this is a piercer-like problem where they're big and tough with AC 14/6, /5, because we're an OSE, aren't we? I assume that's an OSE conversion for Dolmenwood. Yeah, so they're moderately tough to hit, but not impossible. They've got decent hit points. They've got +3 to hit, 1d6 plus envelop, and they do 1d3 damage per round. That, you could lose characters there because there's 3 of them. They've got literally an OK to hit bonus at +3, and if they hit someone, over 2 rounds, they could kill quite a lot of characters with just OK-ish rolls, slightly above average rolls. They're going to kill loads of second level characters with that. Certainly they're going to kill the wizard, aren't they? But even there, I say that's one of the tougher encounters or combats, and they are like an auto combat, and they're likely to surprise you as well. But they're not super tough. Spell books, you've got there are special fungal spells basically which are in some of the books, and you can see the books are worth various amounts of money, which I guess does count as treasure because they're not fungus or magic items, are they? So that is some of the best treasure. A lot of in fact, I would say if that's the case, that's 17, 21, 26. That's just 26,000 out of 33,000. I don't know if that's, I haven't actually double checked that, but that would sound like that's too high a comparison. There is a special book about fungus. There is a heavy ring, which is, slightly harsh trick, but I don't mind that given everything else is so gentle. And some notes, and that is relevant for the missions. Professor Wogglemane wants those. And yeah, this is a place where this then fits into 27, 28, 27 and 28, the Blackeswell Mining Company and the Mining Pit, which is the mini dungeon. You can see here random events, Shroomlights. Shroomlights are first level and can use a light ray. The light ray causes 1d4 damage. It's a save versus ray, it's not a plus to hit, it's a save versus damage. And uncontrollably attack the nearest living creature. So this is this is combining some of the effects of a couple of other things you've seen, like fairly small chippy damage, but fungus that control stuff, that make players go mad. Similar thing here, or penalise players, but in this case it's make players go mad. And it's a harsher, harder combination, especially because you could read 1d3. So some credit, given that you got, if you get 2 of them and one of them hits, or one of them successfully damages, i.e. is not saved against, that then turns a PC against the party, and that's going to be about as dangerous as anything. Clockworker. The Clockworkers, there is a clockworking place which is the artificer who's been working with the wizard Paronax on the kind of deal, trying to engage with the fungal entity, the Myconon. And the Clockworkers, you can go around getting them to work as well. They might attack you. That's a decent place. That's a decent room or house. But yeah, there's Clockworkers downstairs, and it's again an attack. They are at least moderately dangerous, but mostly kind of they're tough with an okay attack. But you're only getting attacked by one of them. Again, like, you're a level 2 OSE party. It means you're not super tough, but you have all your casting, because your cleric can cast. So you've got some healing at least. If he's level 3, hey, he could be doing, dangerously, he could be doing 2 cures. I need to check the exact Dolmenwood classes in the current version as well, because you might have some bonuses there. Because I think one of the Paladin versions at one point, maybe in the pre-Patreon material, maybe in the Patreon material, had a lay on hands for 1 HP. You've got fighters who might have their first magic item, might have at level 3, by level 3 if they've been through a few adventures, might have AC equivalent 4 or 3 or 2. So, this isn't even that when I'm saying that's a tougher. We're not talking about like, 2d3 clockworkers. It is just the one. And I think you should be able to clear them out. Yes, you've been chipped throughout, but, if you're getting the right fungus and you're casting the right spells and stuff. Small dungeon. The dungeon map is the same fundamentally as in the original, and you can see there's not loads going on. It's a simple, fairly small dungeon, 2 entrances, 1 relevant, very small loop, but not particularly relevant otherwise. And the stuff you're finding, that apart from a few mushrooms and stuff, you could fight some shroomlights, you could fight some clockworkers, and there's Paronax and the Mycator. Paronax and the Mycator are the boss, and that is potentially challenging at least. In fact, the point is that Paronax, though he is high HP and stuff, there's a degree of puzzle here. The most dangerous thing is that the Mycator, who is 7 HD with 48 hit points, might attack you. But there are some potential ways round kind of dealing with these things, particularly if you can cut off the Myceli pods. You could off different things. For instance, that weakens it. These are tough, and if you want to save the village, you're going to have to deal with them. That's going to be... It's a weird jump, actually, there, that you're like, lots of this is there's 3 moderately strong, but not amazingly strong, 5, 12, and 18 hit points, 1d6 damage guys. That is a dangerous encounter, potentially, just because the 18 hit point one could stay up for ages. But the point is that, that's the worst you've got, or you've had a couple of, that was a slightly nasty effect, or the shroomlights are slightly dangerous. You then step up into something which is, a 4th level party could do this. I think, a 4th level party could take out the what's it called? The Mycator and Paronax. I need to check. I wonder if you can do anything with the beer. That the beer from the Disgusting River that's brewed the Disgusting River water can cure people. So I wonder if there's something there that I've forgotten, that I've missed. But yeah, Paronax. He's got some good spells. Other than that, of course, he doesn't have loads of stuff he can do. He has Paralyzation 2 a day, Blast Spore 2 a day, Web 3 a day, Spore Cloud 2 a day. So the big thing is that he is dumping loads of control on the characters. The Mycator is very dangerous. 6 attacks, 48 hit points. So I don't, as I say, I think you play enough. I've played enough OSE and AD&D. I'd hope to be able to say, yep, you can see how a geared up 4th level party could do that. I've seen, but it's going to be tough. The Mycator is going to be tough. Maybe then you accept that you can't do that and you leave and the village gets burned down, or rather, in fact, epilogically, what happens is that Paronax survives because the church troops aren't strong enough to kind of cleanse the village, and so the whole place becomes like a node of the Mycanom. Maybe that's good. I don't know. It's interesting. It's not a question. It is definitely a Dolmenwoody question, and that goes back to Wormskin. That kind of the weird balance between different factions and their interests, and whether or not you should support X or Y is there all the way back to Wormskin, or in the pre-Patreon books, in the Patreon books. That's definitely not something that's changed. It's weirdly not raised as much almost as it could be, that you could talk to people, because the priest is friendly but obviously a bit mad and fungal. The tailor is, there's a family who you can rescue, and that's good, and you should if you're good, if you're lawful characters. And then there's the tailor / mayor who refuses to acknowledge what's going on. And then there's the Mycanom, and you could destroy it, and that means the place is cleansed and the fungal monsters die. the infested villagers survive and are curable, and now there's sort of thing where I guess maybe the PCs, could try to intervene as well on behalf of the village as far as they can. But anyway, there's some interesting stuff there. But sorry, the thing I was saying was that maybe that moral dilemma is not raised as keenly as it could be because the NPCs you talk to about it aren't really raising it. It's an odd gap between what I think are the interesting stakes. Potentially Abbot Hargle is asking you to go and make sure that it's not so bad that the extremists feel they have to burn down everything and kill everyone. But on the other hand, that's not really pursued through the adventure. And because the final encounter is so tough, exactly how what's it called? Exactly how the players are going to engage with that problem is up in the air, I think. Then there's some spells, there's some magic items, there's some new fungus. I think this is decent. I think there's some really creative stuff. I like that. A lot of the descriptions are very pungent, no pun intended. It's interesting and striking. The environments are interesting. I think that wilderness adventure, the wilderness dungeon, is an interesting way of varying players' experience, that they have to deal with that as if they're in a dungeon in lots of ways, except that there's slightly, the space is slightly more open or flexible. The mini dungeon is kind of pointless in terms of its actual design, but if you see it as just another house within the thing, then you don't worry about it being a dungeon. You just understand it as an encounter hub. The final encounter is probably a bit challenging if PCs are wanting to save the village, especially on a 2-3 day timeline. On the other hand, a lot of the rest of it, though there is sometimes like a bit of oh great, here's an infested villager who I have to kill, I guess. You can cure them with ale, maybe, and if you work that out, then maybe you just start pinning people down and pouring ale down their throat. I think that'd be the lawful solution. But, there's a bit of that, but none of that is super dangerous except by accumulation. And so I guess the smart party is going to want to have as many healing options available as possible, basically. I know that's always true, isn't it? But particularly here, where having discrete options rather than single big options is actually almost better. If you could have a bunch of fungus, I need to check the DCB actually, which I've never read in its current incarnation, but I think there was a fungus that could do like some healing. I think there had been a paladin subclass that does like one healing. That kind of stuff is exactly the stuff you want to make sure you've got in your party to make it survivable. So, especially if you're going to go up against the bosses at the end. If you're not, you can just loot and scoot, and who cares? In Dolmenwood, I think it's a strong addition. I think it fits the vibe. The art is mostly fun and interesting. As I say, some of the imagery, and there's like a house that's been turned, there's an inn that's been turned basically into a giant mushroom. There's the clockworking thing. There's the tailor. There's the church which is kind of all fungally and been infested. But you could cleanse the shrine in the way that you can cleanse other shrines in Dolmenwood for a blessing. All of that is fun. It perhaps just has things lacking that it's perhaps just a bit apart from that, the very brutal potential boss fight at the end, it's just a bit reflective and a bit chill. And that probably fits Kickstarter Dolmenwood's aesthetic and style and purpose, but it probably doesn't fit everything I want from a game. And certainly it wasn't really how I ran Dolmenwood, which was a lot more anarchic. But yeah, if you have read this in either version, I'd love to know what you think in the comments, and I will see you next time.